A lot of children go astray because they have seen their parents give the wrong value to money compared to what a Christian should have. If they, because the reason I say that is because Jesus said there are only two masters, God and money. And you can't mix the two. You can't serve both, he said. You got to serve one or the other. And there are many people in the world, businessmen and many others, all these Arab sheikhs and so many others. Their God is Mammon, and they worship their God wholeheartedly. They dream about Mammon, and they live completely for money. And the sad thing is, many Christians live for God and money. It's very difficult to see a Christian who lives as wholeheartedly for God as those businessmen and Arab sheikhs and all live for money. Very difficult. I found it very difficult to find such Christians that I could point out who are living 100% for God like businessmen live 100% for money. Most Christians are trying to balance the two. But a businessman doesn't try to balance God with money. He says, forget about God, I've got to make money. Where is the Christian who says, forget about money, I've got to live for God. God will take care of my needs. So we must be able to say to our children, follow me as I follow Christ. And I can tell you from my experience in India and in many other places, the reason many children go astray is because they have seen their parents love money. With all their instruction on teaching, it's like mixing oil and water. What happens when you mix oil and water? You pour oil and water into the same glass or bottle. You can't drink it. And you can't pour it in your car either. But if you had kept it separate, you could have put the oil in your car and drank the water. This is exactly how it is with God and money. The people who try to serve God and money are useless for business and useless for God. The people who only serve money, they are great businessmen. And the people who only serve God are great servants of God. And the devil makes sure that Christians don't stay there. And yet, we need money to live on this earth. So there's nothing wrong in seeking for money. And I compare it to this, if you don't have a job or you're not earning enough from what you're getting now, there's nothing wrong in looking for a better job or seeking for a second source of income, honestly, because you're not earning enough. That's exactly, I would compare that to a young man who's burning to get married and looking for a girl to get married to. What's wrong in that? Absolutely nothing wrong. In the same way, a person who's not earning enough money, looking for another job or a second source of income to take care of the family, is not running after money. They're perfectly legitimate. But a person who's got more than enough money for his needs, still wanting more, would be like a married man who's wanting other women. There's something wrong with that. And that's where calamity comes. So, the Bible says, let us learn to be content with what we have. And certainly my wife and I can speak about that, because when we started our married life, we had very little. But one thing we decided, that we'd be content with what we have. And we'd never buy anything that we couldn't afford. We'd buy it when we could afford it. And that preserved our home from getting into debt unnecessarily. I'm not talking about mortgage and all, which is not really a debt because you got a house there. But I'm talking about other types of debts incurred by buying things which we are not yet able to afford, which we probably need to wait a little before we get it. I know of a number of cases of people who are riddled with debt for years. I'm not talking about mortgage, other debts, because they wanted to live above what they could afford. Because somebody else had it, we must have it. You got to be very careful. If you got a wife like that, you got to say, well, honey, I can't afford that, sorry. We can't do it. It's very important. Most of the problems in marriage come through money, or in-laws, and we must have clear guidelines on this. Once we are married, decisions must be taken by husband and wife, not by the parents of either partner. We must not allow parents to interfere in the decisions taken by a husband and wife. Consulting them, yes, you can consult 100 people if you like. That's okay. Consult the elders, consult it. But when it comes to a decision, it must be the decision of both the parents. And so in relation to bringing up children, let me just add this as well.